You know what's really surprising? This episode is surprisingly good on a rewatch. Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Kevin, I am a geek. You're back watching Kevin the Geek, and this is another episode of my new Doctor Who review. We're now over halfway through the very first season of New Who, and we're here to talk about Father's Day. Now remember, if you are new to the channel, please do subscribe. Please drop a like on the video, drop a comment down below. I love the comments that have been coming in over the last few episodes of reviews and things that I've been doing. So please do keep those comments coming in, and then you may see a comment of yours come up like this one right here, which came through on the Dalek episode. And yeah, you could definitely say that Dalek has exterminated the other episodes. But maybe not, we're gonna see. So let's get started with the 10 categories. You know how it works by now. We're gonna get each one a score out of 10. So let's get started with the story. Okay, so what I'll say straight off is that the story is not a new thing for anything that deals with time travel to do. I think always at some point you're going to have some sort of episode or movie or whatever where it deals with something that is linked to one of the main characters and their own past history, and it's something that they'd like to go back and try and change or whatever. However, the good thing with this is that it made it very clear that that's not what they were trying to do. It was to go and witness the life-altering event and simply to be in a situation where Rose is able to be at the side of her father so he doesn't die alone. That's it. And that's a beautiful little message. Of course, things go wrong, because at the end of the day, Rose is human. And I think anyone who says that, were they in that same situation where they were about to watch, you know, a loved one, maybe it's their child, or whether it's a loved grandparent or father or mother or whatever, if they say they wouldn't have the urge to not go and do that, they would be lying at the end of the day. And Rose, she messed up. She went and saved her father in a split-second moment. And I like the fact that the Doctor tries to address this and think, well, at first you said no to travelling with me, but as soon as I said time machine, you did come and jump in. You came and didn't give a second thought. And she said that it wasn't something that she'd been planning. It was a spur of the moment thing. And I think, you know, if it was a situation I went back in time and it gave me a chance to save my mum, or if, for example, my nephew was in danger and I had that moment to save him, I would probably do it. And I wouldn't think about the consequences until those consequences happen. Now, those consequences, yeah, not great. Really not great. So, the story is... it's a hard one, because it's definitely better than I remember. And I think the whole premise of it is really good. I think the way it's handled is done really well. And you have a really good interaction following all the commotion that happens after the saving of Rose's father. So it does get let down by some of the later stuff, but as an overall story, I think it was definitely above average. So I'm going to give it 7 marks out of 10. Now, when I do reviews, obviously it's always about the main characters. for Doctor Who is the Doctor and the companion. And I'm going to start with the companion in this particular episode because I think Rose is the main character for this particular episode, more so than the Doctor. And she was good. Billie Piper was tremendous in this episode. The range of emotion that she had to convey, because obviously she's just starting off just talking about, it's about my dad and everything. Then she saves him. So you've then got all this swell of emotion that would be running through your body, and you're talking to him, because you've never done that. Because he died when she was a baby. She's never, or at least, consciously remembered ever speaking to him. And she's probably got, 19 years worth of conversations built up in her head, and she don't know what to say or ask him, and all she's ever heard is stories given from her mum, and she has to deal with everything that's thrown on top of her, in addition to the villains of the piece coming because she messed up and she saved him. So, Rose, really good in this episode. She's going to get 9 out of 10. Now we go back to the Doctor, and the Doctor was solid in this episode. Like I say, this was really Rose's episode. So the Doctor is more along for the ride, and is to kind of explain things. So he's become a little bit more expositional in this one. And he's very much a bit of a guardian. But I really love the dynamics between the Doctor and Rose. You could argue and say that maybe he's too angry. But since doing these rewatches, what I think I'm starting to notice, and maybe this is what the writers were going for, is the fact that episode by episode, you are seeing the Doctor deal with different scenarios with his companions, and he's trying still to figure out who he is. How does he work with a companion in a post-Time War world? Because you obviously have, and this is all stemmed from Dalek. This is the thing. This is what people, I think, will forget. This is where it kind of kicks into focus. So you have Dalek. The Doctor comes face to face with Daleks for the first time since the Time War. At the end of that episode, they bring Adam on board. Next episode, Adam fucks up, and he gets dumped mercilessly by the Doctor. This episode is probably the next one along, and probably not a great deal of time after the incident with Adam. And Rose messes up. But at the same time, he knows he needs her, and is willing to forgive her more than he was with Adam. And then, of course, it comes on and follows in the next couple of episodes where you see Jack come on board. And you see things change even more so, culminating with the Daleks again. So, the Doctor's going on one hell of a journey at the moment. But for this episode, maybe a little bit angry than he needed to be at times, but overall, very solid. So the Doctor is getting 7 out of 10. For your supporting characters in this episode, you only have 2 of note. You have Jackie and introducing Pete Tyler, Rose's dad. And I really wish we got to see him more, because he is brilliant in this. He is so good. He is exactly what you would want Rose's dad to be like. And the fact that he comes to the realization that Rose is his daughter, and the realization that he needs to die in order to save everything, that shows you how clever of a man he really is. And they spend a lot of time debating whether he's a kind of like a Del Boy who's kind of intelligent but flawed or if he is a useless, bumbling idiot. And I think he does really fall somewhere in the middle, but is a lot cleverer and a lot smarter than people really do give him credit for. And yeah, he was fantastic. I would score him 10 out of 10. Jackie, again, she's too gobby for me at times. And, you know, even though, you know, this is pre-Pete's death. So you'd like to think that she maybe would have been a bit more calmer, maybe. But she's just yap all the time. Had the odd couple of good moments, but mostly average. So I'd give Pete 10 out of 10. I would give Jackie 6 out of 10. So that would give me an average overall of 8 out of 10 for the supporting characters. Okay, here we go. Another villain problem for season 1 of Doctor Who. Right. They are pointless. They are needless. This is a story and an episode which is emotion driven. It should all be about the emotion and the character developments and everything like that. It feels like they put the villain on there to have something, you know, to have a problem, have a challenge. Me in that situation, you could have got basically the same kind of situation where, imagine like just the world freezes. And it ends up that you've just got this little bubble, which is where Pete is and where these guys are all contained. And you still do the same thing, that they're trapped in the church, they can't get out because everything is literally frozen. That would have done the exact same job. And you could have done the exactly the same thing with the baby, disrupting the TARDIS key and little things like that. But yeah, these were created to be some sort of all-powerful overall being, these Reapers. But I think the problem is they were created too powerfully, which then kind of, when you think about it, you've got, actually, how can we use these again? Do we have these come up every time in every episode where something gets changed and end up repeating the same thing? So, yeah, poor oversight there. And they obviously went with a Jaws style thing where you see it through the perception of the alien until the big reveal moment comes up. But then the big reveal was lackluster, which wasn't helped by the music, which I'll come to later. And the fact that it just seemed to be picking on random people. Like you had the woman hanging out the clothes and the guy trimming his bush and the beggar. What have they got to do with it? Yeah, again, if you're going to use them, focus them on getting Pete, who is the one that is causing this anomaly and paradox and everything that you've got. Do it like that. So yeah, the Reapers, the monster of the week, not good. And I'm so glad that they've never appeared again. They've probably pretty much been retconned. So they're getting 1 mark out of 10. And I'd probably give them 0 if I could. Now, I said I'll talk about the music. Again, as I've always said for this series, any kind of the action scenes so far, it just is not getting a good balance. Music is okay, but the sound balance is all over the place. This episode succeeded so well in the softer moments, the quiet melodies, particularly the scene where it's just Pete and Rose. It's just beautifully written, and it kicks you in the nads in terms of getting you in the feels department. So if it wasn't for the action scenes and their kind of imbalance with music, I would probably give this a full marks. As it is, I'm going to give the music 8 out of 10. Special effects for this episode are pretty much limited to the car as it keeps appearing, which didn't look too bad. That was okay. And the Reapers. The Reapers looked bad. Every time they appeared, just everything was just all over the place. So, 3 out of 10. The dialogue was really good in this episode and gave a really good balance between Jackie and Pete. Rose and Pete. There, where the stuff really kicked in, there were a lot of good individual lines, and then there was quite a few meh ones. So a lot more average than there were above average. But overall, the dialogue was still above average. So 6 out of 10 for the dialogue. Now, whenever we've seen modern clothing, I've always given it an average score. Because it's just modern clothing. There's not much to say about it. This episode, we obviously are going into the past. And we're in the 80s. And there was enough kind of subtle nods to it being set in the 70s, the 80s. Particularly Jackie's hair. I was a big fan of Jackie's hair in this episode, I'm not going to lie. Really, really liked it. But then there was some stuff, I was like, is it quite 80s enough? For it to be best? But overall, yeah. I like the costumes in this episode. So I'm going to give them above average and go for a 7 out of 10. And finally, your set. So you really have Pete and Jackie's flat, which is basically reused from the earlier episodes, from the modern day set. They've made a few little changes here and there. So obviously take it back in the past, but otherwise it's basically exactly the same set. The outdoor sets, again, it just feels like they've put up a few little posters, for example, here and there. Like you see a lot, the whole thing about Margaret Thatcher. And it felt cheap in a way. It felt cheap to go, it's almost like to say, yes, we are in the 80s, we are definitely here. So, yeah, okay there. And then the rest of the time you basically spend it in the church. And the church, I think, was a nice setting for it. When you're trying to reaffirm love and commitment. Okay sets. Again, slightly above average because they're like actual proper locations. I'm going to give the set 6 marks out of 10. And so, what does that mean for the final rankings of the season so far? Well, I can tell you that Father's Day has shocked me because it scored 62 out of 100, which gives it a C+ ranking. And that actually comes in now as the second best episode of what I have done so far in the first season. And that really surprised me. If I remember correctly, I think I had it second last on my previewing rankings, which is all I could go by from my memory. Because I think I've watched this episode probably the least. And maybe I'm just in a more mature frame of mind and I see things differently to, when I first watched it back in, the early 2000s. But what do you think? Do you think the episode was bad and should be towards the bottom, like in my pre-season ranking? Or do you agree with me that it's actually one that probably has got better over time and as you as a person have maybe changed? Whatever you think, please leave a comment on the video. Please keep doing, and I will consider doing a comment of the week or a comment of the previous video on any of my videos going forward. But you've got to start dropping more comments on the videos. So please do that. And do, of course, remember to subscribe to the channel if you are new. And always give a like on the video as well if you enjoyed it. That just helps the YouTube algorithm and everything there. But for today, my name's Kevin. I'm a geek. You've been watching Kevin the Geek and my review of Father's Day. Thank you so much. Take care. Goodbye.